Now that we are familiar with all of the variables I've spoken of, these four variables, now let's try these four data types, sorry. Let's try creating different variables, pertaining to the data types we've created. So to create variables in Python, you can just, if I want my variable name to be string, I'll just set it, I'll say equal to, and I'll put my value. All right. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm telling my program that wherever it sees the word string, do you understand? It should use this value I'm putting inside of the double quotes. So let me say, sorry, let me just use name. So I'm creating a variable called name, and I'm saying it is equal to, I'm using this equal to operator, and I'm, opening and closing a double quote, meaning anything I put here is going to be seen as my name. So basically, a variable is just a temporary storage for a particular data, right? So now name is just going to be a storage for the value Vicol, right? So that's basically the idea behind variables. I'm saying I have a variable called name, and it's going to be storing the value of what Vicol. So if I also have a variable called age, and I say equal to 95, then I'm saying that what I'm creating a temporary storage, which is age, and then the value is going to be what 95, so that I can come down now to my program and say it should print what name. So me telling my program now to print name, let me tell it line 6. So me telling my program now to print name on line 8, I should be expecting the value for what Vicol. This is because once my program start reading, after it checks all of these comments and it doesn't run it, it doesn't read it, it will check line 6. I told it that what name should be equal to what Vicol, meaning store Vicol in a variable called name, so that whenever I call name or I use name in my program, you're going to be using the value Vicol. On another line, I said what age is equal to 95, meaning wherever you see age, just automatically assign the value of what 95 to it. So now on line 8, I'm telling my program now to print name. What my program is going to do is, because it already took name as a variable, as a temporary storage for the value Vicol, printing name is the exact same thing as printing Vicol to the screen. So let's run this now and let's see what we have. Let's run this now. You can just right click and then run active file. So as you can see, where are we? We didn't print anything. Sorry. Run Python and run Python file in terminal. So as you can see, we have Vicol printed to our screen. Now, like I said, this print name is the exact same thing as what print Vicol. All right. Now let's run this now and see what we have. Run Python, run Python. So as you see, we have Vicol in 2 lines. Like I said earlier, print name is the exact same thing as what print Vicol. Well, now, why do we now use variables? So the point now is, imagine I have names of people. Let me say name 1, and then name 2, and then name 3, and then name 4, and then name 5. Right. So let me just continue doing Vicol. 2, 3, 4, and 5. So let's say I have 5 people's name, Vicol 1 to Vicol 5. Now, if I were to print their names without variables, what will happen? So I'll start saying print Vicol 1, then I'll say print Vicol 2, print Vicol 3, print Vicol 4, and print Vicol 5. But if something happens now, I'm probably, Vicol 2 was a mistake. The second name was probably the 4th name, and the 4th name was the 1st name. Now I'll now need to start correcting this to Vicol 4, this to Vicol 1, and then 1 to 2. Whereas if it was to be, if it were to be the way we were using variables, seeing that kind of error, I just need to come to my name variable and then edit it. Now this might not be a very, very big, it might not be very, very significant of a value to understanding why exactly we use variables, but I'm going to do just another example. So now the point is, if you have a list of, you have names of let's say, okay, now I'm saying age 1, name 1, the exact same thing I'm doing, age 1, age 2, age 3. Let's do it for age 4 and age 5, and I'm having different values. So here is 20, here is 19, here is 36, here is 10, and here is, let's say, 25. Now if I want to do, and I want to print, each of these ages right here, from age 1 down to, sorry, I'll be printing 20. I want us to first do without variables. So I want to print 20 first, then 19 next, then I want to print 36 next, then I want to print 10, and then I want to print 25 next. All right. So now what if we have this exact same thing of like 1,000 people? So we have 1,000 people's age, and then we are now doing, prints on different lines of 1,000 people. And then at some point, you now realize that, the let's say 732nd age was a mistake. Now, if we were to do it this way, which, we have different print of different values, we'll start looking for, we start counting where exactly the 732nd age was. Whereas if it was variable and we're naming it age 1, age 2, age 3, age 4, age 5, and we're telling our program to be printing age 1, print age 2, print age 3, and the likes, instead of their actual value, if anything happens and we need to change age, let me say we now go to age 732 to be this. If anything happens tomorrow and I want to modify, the 732nd age, I just need to come here, seeing it clearly that this is my, 732nd age, and just change this to probably the person was 55 years old, and my program is going to print. If I have, let's say there's another line that says age 732, because I had 25 here before, 25 printed on this line, but now that I just changed it to 55, then line 21 is going to be printing 55 for me. But imagine if it was just their values we used instead of storing them in a variable, then I need to now start counting each line. If it was to be this one that we did before, I need to now start counting, this is age 1, age 2, age 3, age 4, down to age 732, before I know the exact line that is responsible for the error the person made. So that is why we use variables in Python, to just understand and make things very easier for us to manipulate. Right? So it's very easier for us to manipulate texts, numbers, everything in Python using variables. Now this is how we declare variables in Python for strings. Like I said, this is how we declare for integer. Now for float also, I can just create a floating point number, a floating variable, and I'll just name it let me say what can be a float? Let's say price. So let's say price of something cost $5.55. So this is basically how to declare floats in Python. You don't need to tell your Python what it is. Once your Python sees a decimal point and some numbers afterwards, it knows this is a float. Once it doesn't see a decimal point in your value, and there's also no double quotes in your value, your program knows that what this is an integer. Once your program sees a double quotes in front of your value, and also at the end of your value, your program automatically knows that what this variable is a string data type. Now the other ones we have is complex too. So once we have something like, let me say vector 1 equals 3 3j, right? So once your program automatically sees 3j, without a double quote or even a full stop, it automatically recognizes that, okay, yes, this is also a complex number, right? Now the other data type we now have is the ones for the sequential, for the lists and the tuple, right? So for lists now, I can say, like I did before, char lists, and I can just say is equal to now put all of these values. And I've explained how we can derive list before. You just need to open a square bracket and then input your elements separated by what? Comma. So each and every element before the comma is a car according to what I'm doing. So I have Toyota in double quotes, telling my program that okay, Toyota is a list among my what is a member of my car list. Lexus is a member of car lists. Audi is a member of car lists. Honda is a member of what? Car list. And because it is starting with a square bracket and also ending with a square bracket, my program will automatically know that this is a list. Now for tuple, same thing. I can have, let me say, car tuple equal to, like I said, the difference between tuple and list is the fact that what list is of square bracket and tuple is of round brackets. So now creating this right now, just taking this exact same data and putting it in a round bracket makes my car tuple. So like I said also, for the car tuple, every member of the everything inside my square and round brackets separated by comma is a member of a tuple. So Toyota now is a member of the tuple, the first member. Lexus is the second, Audi is the third, Honda is the fourth, and Nissan is the last or the fifth member of the tuple. So like I said, our program automatically understands each and every data type that is here. We don't need to tell Python that okay, this is the complex, so this is tuple. Though you can do that, but this particular type of declaring variables doesn't require you to do that. So now this is for tuple. The other data type that we have is range, which I've explained already in the past. So I can just say, let me say my range 1 is equal to range into let's say 6 as we have it. So whenever I call range 1, I'm trying to tell my program that what I'm considering this value whenever I call range 1. Now the last one we have is for the dictionary, the dict data type. So now like I said, the dict data type is basically let me create Vicol dict equal to, or let me just say person. Let me name it person, then equal to, like I said, the difference between a list uses square brackets. Just know that a list uses square brackets, a tuple uses round brackets, and a dict uses the curly braces. Now, because a dict is of mapping data type, mapping meaning you have something and then it automatically has a value. You have something and it's mapped to something. You have something mapped to something. That's what we call mapping. Now, I have person as a dict data type. So now I want to create like a person now in this instance. Because it's a dictionary and it's of mapping data type, meaning I'll have a property or an attribute and I'll give it a value. So the first attribute I want to give for my person dict data type is going to be name, and then I'll use then I'll use the colon symbol and then give my value for Vicol, right? And then separated by a comma. So comma now is going to take another attribute or another property of your dictionary. Let me put age and then comma what the value. Now let's say 90, comma again, another attribute of that person. Let me say height, and because my height is also going to be a float now, in terms of height we use floats. So let me say 6.35, then comma, age, I made a mistake. Age is meant to be of using the colon to give value, and height too is a colon, then comma. What other attributes can I add to this person? Now let me use one more thing, and let me use university, and then the value is going to be union, right? So now we have this person attributes. All right, we have this person that we've created, and we have the name attributes, we have the age, the height, the university, and all of these are under what? Person dictionary. All right, so now we've created all of these different data types in Python. Now let's now try to see if all I've been explaining is actually true. I said in the past that name1 is of string. Now let me put my hash string. Then this is also going to be string. Let me just copy this and paste this down here. Sorry, Python doesn't use what's it called? Python doesn't use semicolon to terminate its statements. Forgive me. Yeah, so we have string, 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 string. Now I said this is going to be what? An integer, right? So int. Now there's a function in Python that I'm going to be telling you of now, which is basically the type function. So type, as you can see here, basically, see my MS is telling me the object type, blah blah blah. So type function basically in Python tells us the type of a variable, an object, or anything we are doing. So now if I want to do it, I want to print first. What do I want to print? I want to print the type of a particular variable. So let me take name1 for instance. So instead of me printing name1 to the screen, I obviously know if I print name1, I'm going to be printing Vicol1 to the screen. Yes, but because I want to know what type of data is name1, is it string, is it a float, is it a list, is it a tuple? So because I want to know the type of data in name1, I'll tell my program that I want to get the type into brackets what the variable name, which is name1, and I want to print it out. So let me just delete all of these other lines. So running the file now, let me right click and then run Python 5 in terminal. As you can see at the bottom, it returns class, then in single quotes str. So the str here stands for string, which was exactly what I said this Vicol or the name1 data type is. So let's try for name2 and let's see what we have again. I want to print type of name2 and run Python running terminal. So as you can see again, for the second time, it says that what name2 is also of string data type. So that's to show that we are right of all of this that we said. Now down to age. Now, like I said, age is going to be integer data type, right? Because we didn't have any full stop or the floating point number afterwards. So let's check the type of age1 and let's see what our program is going to tell us about age1. Right click, run, and then run Python. As you can see, it said what it's of class int, meaning age1 is an integer data type. So why this is necessary for you to know is just so that when you're working with things in Python, probably you want to start doing calculations or you want to start storing values and creating different variables, you would know how to easily manipulate your variables. Something like addition now, you can only add integers and integers together. You can only add integers and floats together, float and float, integer and float, but you cannot add an integer to a string. What do I mean? You can do a calculation of, like, let's say 90 as an integer plus 20 is very correct. You can do a calculation of 90.3 plus 11.1. This is float and float. You can do a calculation of 90.1 plus 20. This is integer and float. All of these calculations are correct, but this is because you bear it in mind that this is an integer, 20 is an integer, 90.3 is a float, 11.1 is a float, and so therefore they can all of these calculations can actually work. But if you have something like Vicol now on its own and you want to do plus, let's say 13, you are obviously not going to be expecting a numerical value from this expression, because 90.1 plus 20 is going to give us 110.1. 90.3 plus 11.1 is going to give us 101.4. 90 plus 20 is going to return 110. Yeah, sorry, this is 110 and 1.1.4. Then this is also going to return 110. But having a calculation like Vicol plus 13 is not just going to return a numerical value, and that is the essence and the reason why you need to know and understand data types, so that you will not store, or even if you store a number like 12, but because 12 now is inside of a double quote, you open the double quote here and you close the double quote here and you place the number inside, your program now is not going to see 12 as a number, it's going to see it as a string rather. So you might be expecting to see something like 25 as the result of this calculation, but when you run it, you're going to see something entirely different, because what the types don't match. this is an integer and this is a string, and you cannot do calculation with string and integer together. So now let's do a couple of more tests for the type. So after age I have price. So let's see what data type is for price. So print and then run Python, run in terminal. So as you can see, it said what class of float. It means price, like I expected, was a float. Now let's check for vector1. Let's see the value it brings out for vector1. As you can see, it brings what a class of what complex, meaning this value, like I expected, 3j is a complex number. Now let's check for the lists. Now let me just print them after each other. So print class list, and then below it should be tuple, and then let's put it down again for range, and then let's do for person, so we'll not waste time. So now I'm expecting to see list, tuple, range, and dict. All right, so let's see the classes our Python program is going to recognize them as. So as you can see, like I said, the first one is a list, second one is a tuple, third is a range, and the last one is a dict. And I've duly explained the difference between list, tuple, and dict, which I'm going to state again. So to create a list, you have a square bracket, and you create instances of that list or members of the list inside of the square brackets with a comma separating each member of the element. While for tuple, you use a round bracket and then you insert each members of the element inside of the round bracket, separating them also with a comma. But for dict, it is that you are creating a property of the dictionary or the dict, and then you are assigning it value at the same time. So that is the explanation for all of this, right? And for range also, as you can see, like I said, range is of range data type. So now let's talk about something that variables do. So variables, as we know, our Python program reads our program from top to bottom. All right, your Python program, just like every other programming language, reads your code from top to bottom. Now why am I emphasizing on that? Now let's do something. Now I don't want to print all of this. Let me say print school, right? I want to print a variable called school, and I should come to the bottom and say school is equal to Uniosun. Now bear in mind, school equals to Uniosun means that what Uniosun is has a value of school has a value of Uniosun, and it is of what the string data type. But what I want you to notice now is that I said what you should print school, but I declared school below where I actually called school, meaning I told my program to print school, and I told it what school is afterwards. Now let's see if you're going to run an error or the program is going to run fine. So if I run this now, as you can see, it says what the error is what name school is not defined. So like I said, your Python program, just like most of every other programming languages, reads your code from top to bottom. So if you don't declare something at the top and you want to use it at the bottom, it's not going to work, just like we used for school right now. So if I had declared school equals Uniosun before I printed Uniosun or school, you're going to see that it's going to run fine now. So I told my program, because it's reading from top to bottom, so it has read line 17, and it comes to line 19, and it says that okay, school is equal to Uniosun. Wherever I see Uniosun, I should replace it with the value of what school, and then I told it to print school at the bottom. So it's going to run very fine. But if it were the other way around, which was what we had before, which is this, if it gets to line 19 and it wants to print school, because it's reading from top to bottom, it has not gotten to like 20, so it doesn't even know what school stands for, and in that regard it cannot run the program correctly. So let me just revert this back to the correct thing, and let's run it, and let's see what we're going to have. So running this in our terminal, as you can see, prints Uniosun as my result. So yeah, that's basically something to let you know about variables. You need to declare them before you use them. So I'll talk about another property of variables called overwriting. So overwriting, basically the exact same explanation I gave of variables, of your Python program reading your code from top to bottom, is also applicable or is like the same knowledge you apply to understanding what we call overwriting. So this is the word overwriting. So what overwriting basically means is you have something to store a value previously, and they are telling it to discard the previous value and store a new value. So now that I said school equals union, if I come to the bottom of my code, probably even like after several lines, and I say school is equal to, let me say OAU this time around. Now, as we expect, school should now be printing OAU instead. Why? This is because I told you a variable is a temporary storage of data. So it's not permanent, it's temporary. Now, if we first started here, we told it that school is what in your shown. Meaning wherever you see school, replace it with value of what in your shown. Now it holds in your shown as a value for school, like school holds the value for union stream. Now we came down to line 23 because our program is reading from top to bottom. So if first read line 19, it saw school as union stream, and then it got to line 23, and then it's seen that that same school now has a new value of OAU, right? So that way it's going to discard the previous value which was union stream and then take OAU as its own value. So now if you want to print this now and see what we have, you're going to see that it's going to be printing OAU instead of union because we overwrote OAU inside of the school variable. And you can pretty much do this to any other variable. Like I have name1 here that says Vicol1. If I come down here now, even after plenty lines of code, and I say name1 should be equal to, let me say YouTube, right? And I want to now print name1. I want to print name1. Now let's see what we are going to have. If I run this now, sorry. Run Python file. As you can see, it prints what YouTube to our screen instead of Vicol1, which was previously saved. So yeah, that is what overwriting in Python programming is. So times you are using variables, make sure you don't use a variable name that you can mistakenly reuse again. So if you have a variable name called name, and at some point in time in your program you don't want to declare another variable and you name it name also, it will overwrite the previous value you stored in your name and then take the new value which you stored as the value for name. Okay, now let's talk about variable casting. Right, so I remember I gave an example not quite long of having something like, okay, let's just like write it again. So if I say age is equal to, and I want to put somebody's age, let's say 25, but now it's inside double quotes, right? I open the double quotes, put the person's age, and I close the double quotes. Now if I want to print this age, you will see that my age is going to print. Now run Python file in terminal. See, I said you should print age, and it's obviously printed 25. But we might have issue with this kind of a thing in future, in the sense that age now that I stored here, fine, it's displaying 25 here, but this 25 here that is displaying is totally different from this, because this is an integer and the previous one is a string. So if I want to do like a calculation with this now, it is going to give me a logical error, an error, something I'm not going to expect, compared to if my age is actually like this. So now to confirm that, let's do something. Now that I've stored my age as this value, let's now check the type of age. So I'll just put type and I'll print type age. So if I run this code now in the terminal, you're going to see that what the age is of what string data type. So like I said, you cannot do mathematical operation with strings and floats or strings and integer. The only mathematical operation that you can actually do in Python is more like integer to integer, integer to float, float to integer, and float to float. That is when you can actually calculate or do numerical calculation or complex numbers to either of int and float. But using strings to perform numerical operations with int, float, or complex numbers cannot just work. So now that I have age now stored, fine, age is displaying 25, which is actually correct, but the data type of string is actually, the data type of age is actually a string, which is wrong, because I can want to do calculation with the age and probably multiply the age by 2 or add 3 years to the age and something like that, and it's going to give me errors, logical errors, because age as it sees now is a string, right? So as you can see, I printed the type of age and our program showed str, which is string. Now casting in Python basically now allows me to be sure that whatever value I have, I can, like transform it or make it into another data type. Now, what am I trying to say? Now we have age, and it's a string type, right? So if I'm unsure, probably this is like 1,000 line of code, and I don't know where age was, declared. So I didn't know if it's going to be, if the person declared it like this, or the person declared it correctly like this, right? So just to be sure that I want to make sure that age is going to be of integer data type, I can just come down here and say age is going to be equal to int into bracket age. So now this automatically tells my system. Now let's read this code like a compiler now, or an interpreter. Now line 26 says that what age is equal to what string 25. So it means wherever I see the value of age, take what 25 as a string and then use it, right? Now line 27, I'm now using the function int, which is a form of casting variables. So using int and opening and closing your curly braces, sorry, your round brackets, and putting any variable inside is going to automatically convert that particular variable to the data type. So the same way we have for int, we also have can also cast float. Can also cast float like the exact same way. Even strings, so you can also do str, yeah, age, right? So now that I have age as a string and I do age equals to int age, now let me comment these two lines below. Let me delete them, sorry. So now that I have this line that says age equals int into bracket age, it means I'm casting age, right? Casting it, meaning that what I have age as a string, but now I want my program to convert the string or whatever data type is there to an integer. All right, so now let's now print type of age on line 30 and see what we have. So run and run. As you can see, it shows that what this is of class what int. This is of class int. So that shows you that even if you collect an input or you collect a value and you're not sure, you're unsure of the data type of that particular value, and you want to perform probably numeric or arithmetic operation on it, you need to cast it and make sure that what you're taking it to the right form, to the proper form, so that it's going to be used for numerical computations. Now let's change this. Now let's use float instead. If I cast this now and I turn it to float age, so I'm telling my program that what this is a string at the beginning, but I want age now to be equal to what casting my age as a what casting my age as a float data type. So now if I run this program, I'm going to see that it's going to now recognize age as you can see here, class float, right? And the exact same thing too you can do with string. Now let me turn this to a normal integer, and now let me cast it to str. Right, now you're going to see, okay, let me just print it without the str, like without this line, to show you that like this it is actually a integer. It's actually an integer. As you can see, it has a class int. But now on commenting this line and running the pipe program, you're going to see that it's going to have a class of string this time around, because what I casted it and I told my program, fine, I stored age as what 25, which is an integer, but I wanted to change data type to a string data type. So that is how you cast variables in Python.